My name is Blair Fowler. I'm 29 years old. And last week, I watched my mother's entire career collapse because of one photograph she forgot to destroy. You've probably seen her, Victoria Fowler, the perfect mom. 500,000 followers hanging on her every word about raising children with love, patience, and grace. Her blog posts get shared by parenting magazines. Her book just hit the bestseller list. But here's the thing. She has 3 children. Her blog only shows 2. I'm the one she cut out. Literally. Every family photo, every Christmas card, every milestone post. There's always a cropped edge where I used to be. Last week, a reporter wanted to interview the perfect family. Mom agreed. She thought she had everything under control. She didn't know I still had the originals. Before I tell you what happened in that studio, please, if you're enjoying this story, take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely like it. Now, where are you watching from and what time is it there? Drop it in the comments. Let me take you back 4 weeks, to the night I got a phone call that changed everything. The ER was chaos that night. Code blue in Bay 3. A car accident victim in trauma. I'd been running for 11 hours straight when my phone buzzed in my scrub pocket. Unknown number. Area code 847. My hometown. I let it ring. Whoever it was could wait. The patient in front of me couldn't. 20 minutes later, I was in the break room staring at the voicemail notification. My finger hovered over delete. Nothing good ever came from that area code. I pressed play. Ms. Fowler, my name is Karen Mitchell. I'm a journalist working on a piece about parenting influencers. I need to speak with you about your mother, Victoria Fowler. My coffee cup stopped halfway to my mouth. I found a school enrollment record from 2009. You were listed as Victoria Fowler's daughter, but according to everything public, she only has 2 children. A pause. I'd really like to hear your side of the story. I deleted the voicemail. Then I sat in the dark break room, hands shaking. 12 years. 12 years I'd spent building a life where that woman didn't exist. I had a career, an apartment, friends who knew nothing about the girl I used to be. And now a stranger was asking me to dig it all up. I caught my reflection in the window. There it was, the thin scar above my left eyebrow. A reminder I couldn't delete no matter how hard I tried. My phone sat on the table like a grenade with the pin half pulled. I should have blocked the number, should have pretended I never heard that message. Instead, I saved it. I saved her number too. I didn't know why. Not then. But some part of me, the part I'd spent 12 years trying to silence, already knew I'd call her back. The first time my mother erased me, I was 14 years old. I remember the day perfectly. December 23rd, 2009. She was launching her blog, Perfect Mom Life, and needed photos for the header. Blair, come help me scan these, she called from the office. I was excited. This was rare. Mom asking for my help with something she cared about. I carried stacks of family photos to the scanner, handling each one like it was precious. Because they were precious. To me. This one's my favorite. I held up our Christmas photo from the year before. Dad had lifted me onto his shoulders to put the star on the tree. Madison was laughing. Tyler was just a toddler in Mom's arms. We looked happy. We looked like a family. Mom took the photo, studied it for a long moment. Then she opened Photoshop. I watched her select the crop tool. Mom? What are you doing? The composition is better this way. Her voice was flat, clinical. You were blocking Madison's face. I wasn't blocking anything. I was standing next to her. But on the screen, I watched myself disappear. One click, and I was gone. There. Mom smiled at the new version. Perfect. That was the first time. It wasn't the last. I didn't sleep after Karen's voicemail. Instead, I did something I hadn't done in years. I searched my mother's name, Victoria Fowler, the perfect mom, 500,000 followers, a book deal, magazine features. I scrolled through her Instagram, Hundreds of photos, birthday parties, graduations, vacations. Madison was in every shot. Tyler, too. Even Dad made appearances. But me? Not once. It was like I'd never existed at all. Growing up in the Fowler house, I learned to become invisible. Not because I wanted to, because it was the only way to survive. My 15th birthday. Mom was filming Madison's first ballet recital. Can't talk now, Blair. This is important. Parent-teacher conferences. She showed up 20 minutes late, then told my teacher, I have two other kids who actually need me. Dinner every night. Madison talked about her day. Tyler showed off his drawings. I sat at the end of the table, eating in silence, wondering if anyone would notice if I just stopped coming down. No one ever did. The worst part wasn't the neglect. It was watching Dad see everything and do nothing. He'd catch my eye sometimes, across the dinner table or in the hallway after one of Mom's cutting remarks. His face would twist into something that almost looked like guilt, but he never spoke up, never once. Your mom is under a lot of pressure, honey, he'd whisper when we were alone. Just try not to upset her. Don't upset her. Don't take up space. Don't exist too loudly. I got the message. By 16, I'd mastered the art of disappearing. I spent my afternoons at the library, my evenings at friends' houses, anywhere that wasn't home. I thought if I just became small enough, quiet enough, good enough, maybe she'd finally see me. I got straight A's, made honor roll every semester, volunteered at the hospital on weekends. Mom never mentioned any of it. But when Madison won a spelling bee, that made the blog, complete with a 1,500-word post about raising a champion. I wasn't even in the audience photos. I'd been erased from those, too. There was one person who saw me, really saw me. Mrs. Henderson taught 8th grade English at Millbrook Middle. She had gray hair, kind eyes, and a way of looking at students that made you feel like you mattered. I remember the day she sat down next to me in the cafeteria. I was alone, as usual. No lunch. Mom had forgotten to leave grocery money again. Mind if I join you? She didn't wait for an answer, just sat down and slid half her sandwich across the table. Turkey and Swiss. Hope that's okay. I was too hungry to refuse. She didn't ask questions that day. Didn't pry. Just sat with me while I ate, talking about books and weather and nothing important at all. But a few weeks later, she asked me to stay after class. Blair, I need to ask you something. Her voice was gentle but serious. Is everything okay at home? My heart stopped. I wanted to tell her everything, about the photos, the silence, the way Mom looked through me like I was made of glass. But I could hear Mom's voice in my head. What happens in this house stays in this house. I'm fine, Mrs. Henderson. I forced a smile. Really? She looked at my wrist, at the bruise I'd been hiding under my sleeve. Mom had grabbed me too hard the night before, angry about something I couldn't even remember now. Mrs. Henderson didn't push, but I saw her write something in a notebook after I left. I didn't think about it again. Not until years later, when I learned what she'd actually done. She tried to save me. She filed a report, but someone made sure it disappeared, just like me. I left home the spring of my junior year. Not ran away. Left. There's a difference. It started with good news. Great news, actually. I'd been accepted into an accelerated nursing program. Early admission, full scholarship. My ticket out. I ran home with the letter clutched to my chest. For one stupid moment, I thought maybe this would be the thing that finally made her proud. Mom was in the living room, camera pointed at Madison. Teaching Madison to bake, our mother-daughter tradition was written on a whiteboard behind them. Mom, I got in. I held up the letter. Full scholarship, the nursing program at State. She didn't look up from the viewfinder. That's nice, honey. I'm busy. But this is... Madison, sweetheart, stir the batter slower. Perfect. I stood there for 2 hours, waiting for a break, waiting for her to acknowledge that her daughter, her first daughter, had just achieved something worth celebrating. She never did. When the recording finally stopped, I tried again. Mom, please, can we just talk for 5 minutes? She sighed. The kind of sigh that made me feel like a burden just for existing. You want to know why I don't make time for you, Blair? She finally looked at me. Maybe if you were easier to love, I'd try harder. The words hit like a physical blow. I didn't cry, didn't scream, just walked upstairs, packed a backpack, and left. No goodbye, no dramatic exit. I just walked out the front door at 11 p.m. and never came back. Nobody came looking. The next morning, Mom posted a video. Self-care Sunday with my amazing kids. Madison and Tyler were in it. I wasn't. I hadn't existed to her for years. Now it was official. 2 days after Karen's voicemail, I still hadn't called back. I told myself I didn't want to. That digging up the past would only hurt me. That I'd built a good life and didn't need to blow it up for some journalist's exposé. But the truth, I was terrified. Terrified that if I started talking, I wouldn't be able to stop. Terrified that no one would believe me. Terrified that maybe, just maybe, Mom was right. Maybe I really was too damaged to love. Then came the shift that changed everything. I was checking vitals on Mrs. Patterson, a 73-year-old recovering from hip surgery. Sweet woman, sharp eyes. You have kids, honey? She asked while I adjusted her IV. No, ma'am. Family? I hesitated. It's complicated. She patted my hand. Complicated means there's a story worth telling. Her words stayed with me through the rest of my shift. Worth telling. Was my story worth telling? At 11 p.m., I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot, Karen's number on my screen. 12 years I'd been running. What if running was the thing keeping me stuck? I pressed call before I could change my mind. She answered on the first ring. Blair Fowler? You've been waiting for this call. I have. No pretense, no small talk. I'm not writing a puff piece. I'm investigating influencers who build brands on lies. Your mother is on my list. Why her specifically? Because she claims to have 2 children, but I have documents that suggest otherwise. A pause. I found your school records, Blair. Your medical records, too. You existed. And someone went to a lot of trouble to make sure the world forgot. My hands were shaking. What exactly do you want from me? The truth. And any evidence you might have. Evidence. I thought of the box in my closet. The one I hadn't opened in 12 years. We should meet. The box was exactly where I'd left it. Top shelf of my closet, behind winter coats I never wore. Written in black marker. 2009, do not open. I'd carried that box through 6 apartments, 3 cities, and 1 very bad breakup. Never once opened it. Never even looked inside. Until now. The cardboard was soft with age. I cut through the packing tape with scissors, hands steady despite everything. Inside, my high school diary. A few paperback novels. A friendship bracelet from a girl whose name I couldn't remember. And a manila folder. My heart stopped when I saw it. I'd forgotten. Somehow, impossibly, I'd forgotten that I'd taken these photographs. Dozens of them. The originals, the ones Mom had scanned before her edits. Christmas 2008, the 4 of us in front of the tree. Me standing next to Madison, both of us laughing. Easter 2007, family brunch at Grandma's house. I was holding baby Tyler. Mom's birthday 2009, the whole family gathered around her cake. I was the one who'd made it. I spread them across my bed, then pulled up Mom's Instagram on my phone. The same photos, but different. Every single one had been cropped. I was surgically removed from each shot, as cleanly as if I'd never been there at all. Then I found the email, printed out, folded, shoved at the bottom of the folder. I didn't remember saving this either. From victoria.fowler@gmail.com to diane.russo@brightliterary.com. Date March 15th, 2012. Regarding the family branding, I want to be clear, I have 2 children. Please never mention the name Blair in any materials. She is not part of this narrative. I read it 3 times. She is not part of this narrative. I hadn't been forgotten. I'd been erased on purpose. And now I had proof. We met at a coffee shop 3 towns over. Neutral territory. Karen was younger than I expected, late 30s maybe. Sharp features, sharper eyes. She ordered black coffee and got straight to business. I need to know why you're doing this, I said. Why this story? Why my mother specifically? She stirred her coffee, didn't drink it. My best friend in college, Jenna, her mom was a mommy blogger too, before that was even a thing. Karen's voice was steady, but I caught the crack beneath it. Picture perfect family. Inspirational posts about raising daughters with grace and kindness. I waited. Jenna took her own life our junior year. I'm so sorry. The comments on her mom's blog that day were all the same. So sorry for your loss. You were such an amazing mother. Karen finally looked at me. Nobody knew her mom hadn't spoken to her in months. Nobody knew she'd told Jenna she was too much work. I felt sick. I'm not asking you to destroy your mother, Karen said. I'm asking you to tell your truth. What she does with that truth is on her. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. I have photos, originals, and the versions she posted. I spread them on the table. And there's this. I handed her the email. Karen read it once, then again. Her expression didn't change, but I saw her grip tighten on the paper. She is not part of this narrative. This is, she exhaled slowly. This is exactly what I needed. There might be more. I told her about Mrs. Henderson, about the report that disappeared. Karen looked at me with something that might have been respect. Are you ready for what happens next? I thought about that 14-year-old girl watching herself get cropped out of existence. I've been ready for 12 years. Okay, I need to pause here for a second. If you're still with me, thank you. This story is hard to tell, and knowing you're listening makes it easier. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, drop a black heart in the comments. And if you think I should show up at that interview, hit the like button. Now let's see what happened next. 3 days later, Karen sent me a link. You need to see this. I clicked through to Mom's Instagram. New post, pinned to the top of her feed. Announcement. So excited to share that Raising Perfect, A Mother's Guide to Nurturing Excellence, is officially being released next month. To celebrate, I'll be doing an exclusive TV interview with the whole family. Stay tuned for details. The photo showed Mom, Dad, Madison, and Tyler arranged in their living room like a catalog spread. Everyone smiling, everyone perfect. Below it, a promotional video. I pressed play against my better judgment. What's your secret to raising such wonderful children? The interviewer asked. Mom's face filled the screen, glowing with that practiced warmth she'd perfected over the years. Presence, she said. I'm always there for my kids. Every milestone, every tear, every triumph. I never miss a moment. I slammed my laptop shut. Never miss a moment? She missed 18 years of mine. My phone buzzed. Karen. The interview is in 2 weeks. Live broadcast, local station. They're billing it as a family values feature. I stared at her message, heart pounding. If you want to do something, she continued, this is your window. 2 weeks. 14 days to decide whether I was going to keep running or finally stand still. I looked at the folder on my desk, the photos, the email, 12 years of silence. Mom was about to tell 500,000 people what an amazing mother she was. She was about to sell a book about raising children with love and presence, and she was going to do it without ever acknowledging I existed. unless I stopped her. My fingers typed before my brain caught up. Tell me more about the interview. I didn't sleep for 3 nights. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw two versions of myself. The woman who walked away and never looked back, and the girl who still flinched at the memory of her mother's voice. I made lists. That's what I do when I can't think straight. I write things down. Reasons not to do this. She'll call me unstable, a liar, an attention seeker. Madison and Tyler will hate me. I could get sued for defamation. My life is fine now. Why blow it up? Reasons to do this. 500,000 people are taking parenting advice from a woman who erased her own child. I have proof. I deserve to exist. Silence protects the abuser, not the victim. That last line. I'd said it to patients before. Survivors of domestic violence, of assault, of things they were too ashamed to name. But I'd never applied it to myself. I called Megan at 2 a.m. She's been my best friend since nursing school, the only person who knows even half my story. Am I crazy for considering this? That depends. Her voice was groggy but patient. What would you tell a patient who'd been abused and had a chance to speak up? I didn't hesitate. That their story matters, that silence only protects the person who hurt them. Then take your own advice, Blair. What if I'm just being petty? Megan laughed. Actually, laughed. Petty is keying someone's car. This is reclaiming your existence. There's a difference. I hung up and stared at the ceiling until dawn. By the time the sun came up, I'd made my decision. I wasn't doing this for revenge. I wasn't doing it to destroy her. I was doing it for the 14-year-old girl who was told she was too hard to love. She deserved better than silence. Finding Mrs. Henderson was easier than I expected. A quick search through the Millbrook Middle School alumni page led me to a retired teachers group, which led me to a Facebook profile with a familiar face. Still kind, still warm, just a few more lines around the eyes. I called the number listed before I could lose my nerve. Mrs. Henderson, this is Blair Fowler. You probably don't... Blair! Her voice broke on my name. Oh my God, Blair! 20 minutes later, I was in my car, driving 3 hours to my hometown for the first time in 12 years. Her house was small and cozy, walls lined with books and photographs of smiling students. She hugged me the moment I walked through the door. A real hug, the kind that says, I see you. I've thought about you so many times, she said, pouring tea with shaking hands. I always wondered what happened, if you were okay. I'm okay now. It felt strange to say it and mean it. But I need to ask you about something, from back then. Her face changed, guarded suddenly, like she'd been waiting for this conversation. I filed a report, she said quietly, to CPS, about you. My cup froze halfway to my mouth. What? I documented everything I observed, the bruises, the weight loss, the way you flinched when anyone mentioned your mother. She met my eyes. I filed it my last week at Millbrook, and then nothing happened. What do you mean nothing? Someone marked it as unsubstantiated without ever investigating. The case was closed before it even opened. She stood, walked to an old filing cabinet in the corner. But I kept a copy, just in case. She pulled out a worn folder and placed it in my hands. In case someday you needed it. I had 2 pieces of evidence now. The picture was getting clearer. I was halfway home when my phone rang. The name on the screen made my hands go numb. Madison Fowler. I'd saved her number years ago. Some masochistic impulse I never quite understood, but she'd never called. Not once in 12 years. I pulled over, stared at the screen, watched it ring 4 times. Then I answered. Blair? Her voice was higher than I remembered, nervous. Is this really you? I couldn't speak for a moment. The last time I'd heard that voice, she was 12 years old, asking why I was leaving. It's me. I found your number in Dad's old phone. She was talking fast, the way people do when they're scared of silence. I've wanted to call for years. I just never knew what to say. Why now? A long pause. Mom's book is coming out, and I keep having this feeling that something's wrong, that there's something I don't know. Another pause. Were you really as bad as Mom says? The question hit like a slap. What did she tell you? That you were troubled, that you ran away because you couldn't handle our family's values, that we shouldn't talk about you because it hurt Mom too much. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. None of that is true, Madison. Then what is true? I thought about the folder in my passenger seat, the photos, the email, Mrs. Henderson's report. I think you should ask Mom that question, I said carefully, and watch her face when she answers. Silence stretched between us. Will I see you again? Madison's voice was small now, young. Maybe. I meant it. But there are some things that need to happen first. I hung up knowing full well that Madison would go straight to Mom. The clock was ticking now. The cease and desist arrived the next morning. I stared at the email, reading it 3 times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Cease and desist. Notice, defamation, harassment, and tortious interference. Dear Ms. Fowler, dear Ms. This firm represents Victoria Fowler regarding your recent communications and activities. My mother had lawyered up. Before I'd even said a word publicly, she was already building her defense, but that wasn't the worst part. I opened Instagram to find Mom's latest story, a soft focus video of her looking tearfully into the camera. Some people from my past are trying to destroy what I've built, she said, voice trembling just enough to seem authentic. I don't know why. I've only ever tried to be a good mother. Please pray for my family during this difficult time. The comments were already flooding in. Stay strong, Queen. Jealous people always attack success. We love you, Victoria. Don't let the haters win. She was controlling the narrative, getting ahead of whatever I might say by painting herself as the victim before I could even open my mouth. I called Karen immediately. She's making me look like the villain before I've done anything. That's what narcissists do. Karen's voice was calm, unsurprised. But she doesn't know what we have, and she doesn't know about the interview. What interview? I've been in contact with the station doing her book launch segment. They want a family values piece. I mentioned I might have a family member with a different perspective. My heart stopped. You didn't. I did. They're interested. A pause. But you'd have to agree to appear, live, in front of cameras. The cease and desist was still open on my laptop. I thought about the 14-year-old girl who was told to be quiet. Set it up. The night I committed, I stood in front of my bedroom mirror trying on outfits like I was preparing for battle. Navy blazer, white blouse, professional but not cold. I caught my reflection and froze. For a split second, I wasn't 29 anymore. I was 14, standing in this exact pose, trying to see what my mother saw when she looked at me, trying to figure out what was so unlovable. My phone buzzed. Karen. Producer confirmed, you'll come on after Victoria's segment. She doesn't know you're coming. Neither does her agent. I typed my response before I could second-guess myself. I'll do it, but I have conditions. My conditions were simple, 1. This wouldn't be a Jerry Springer ambush. Professional and factual only. 2. Victoria would have a chance to respond to everything I said. I wasn't interested in a one-sided takedown. 3. Madison and Tyler were off limits. They were victims too, in their own way. 4. I would only state facts I could prove. No accusations I couldn't back up with evidence. Karen called me 10 minutes later. You're protecting the family that hurt you. I'm protecting my integrity, I corrected. If I stoop to her level, I become her. Silence on the other end. You know this might not work, right? Karen's voice was gentle. She spent 12 years building this narrative. You're walking in with a folder and hoping the truth matters. The truth does matter. I looked at the folder on my desk, the photos, the email, Mrs. Henderson's report. And if it doesn't, at least I'll finally know. I sent my RSVP to the producer that night. Point of no return. In 2 weeks, I would look my mother in the eye for the first time in over a decade. And this time, she wouldn't be able to edit me out. The knock came at 10 p.m., the night before the interview. I wasn't expecting anyone. Megan was on shift. Karen was prepping final details. I'd planned to spend the evening reviewing my notes and trying not to throw up. I opened the door. Tyler stood in the hallway, 21 years old now, taller than I remembered, red-eyed, like he'd been crying. "Madison told me," he said without preamble, "about the interview tomorrow. I had to come." I stepped aside to let him in, still too shocked to form words. The last time I'd seen my brother, he was 9 years old, standing at his bedroom window, waving as I walked away with a backpack and nowhere to go. "You remember me?" I finally managed. "Of course I remember you." He sat on my couch like his legs couldn't hold him anymore. "I remember you reading me bedtime stories, making pancakes on Saturday mornings, the way you'd sneak me extra cookies when Mom wasn't looking." I felt tears prick my eyes but forced them back. "I remember the night you left too." His voice cracked. "Mom said you ran away, but I saw her lock your bedroom door that night. I didn't understand then. I was too young." "Tyler, I've been putting pieces together for years." He looked at me with our father's eyes. "Mom gets weird whenever your name comes up. Dad won't make eye contact with anyone. Madison keeps defending Mom, but I can see the doubt." He took a shaky breath. "I don't know exactly what happened, but I know you didn't abandon us." He reached out and took my hand. "And I want you to know, I'm glad you're telling the truth, whatever happens tomorrow." I hugged my little brother for the first time in 12 years. And for the first time, I didn't feel completely alone. Tyler left around midnight with a promise to text me before the interview. Then it was just me and the silence. I spread everything out on my kitchen table, organized it the way I organize patient charts, methodical, precise, no room for error. The photos, originals on the left, cropped versions on the right. Side by side, the evidence was undeniable. The email, highlighted, printed twice in case one copy got damaged. Mrs. Henderson's report, 15 years old but still legible, still damning. One more thing at the bottom of the folder. I'd almost forgotten about it. Text messages from 5 years ago. An unknown number that I later traced to Mom's assistant's phone. "Stop contacting your siblings, you're dead to this family." I'd saved it because some part of me couldn't believe it was real. Couldn't accept that my own mother could be so cruel in writing. Now it was just another piece of evidence. My phone buzzed. "Megan. You ready?" I typed back. "Tell me I'm doing the right thing." Her response came immediately. "You're doing the brave thing. That's more important than the right thing." I stared at the ceiling until 3 a.m., running through every possible scenario. What if she denied everything? What if no one believed me? What if I froze up and couldn't speak? At 4 a.m., I finally gave up on sleep, made coffee, watched the sunrise through my kitchen window. In 8 hours, my mother would look at me for the first time in a decade. In 8 hours, 500,000 people would learn that the perfect mom had a daughter she tried to erase. I sealed the folder, set my alarm, and waited for the day I'd been running toward my entire life. We're about to get to the interview, the moment I've been building toward this whole story. But before we do, I want to know, what would you do in my shoes? Would you show up? Would you stay silent? Let me know in the comments. And if you haven't already, subscribe so you don't miss how this ends. Okay, here we go. The studio was smaller than I expected. I'd imagined something grand. Lights, cameras, an audience of hundreds. Instead, it was a modest local station with worn carpet and fluorescent lighting, about 50 people in folding chairs, mostly women who looked like they'd come straight from book club. Perfect. Intimate. Nowhere to hide. Name? The security guard barely looked up from his clipboard. Blair Fowler. I'm here for the Victoria Fowler segment. He scanned the list, frowned. You're not on here. Check with the producer. Karen Mitchell arranged this. He made a call. I waited in the lobby, folder pressed against my chest like armor. That's when I heard it. Her laugh. I'd know that sound anywhere, bright and practiced, designed to charm. It floated down the hallway from somewhere near the green room. Then I saw them. Victoria walked first, wearing cream-colored cashmere and a smile that could sell anything. Behind her, Madison in pastels, Tyler in a blazer, Dad looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. And next to Mom, a sharp-featured woman in a designer suit. Had to be Diane Russo, the agent. They were heading to the green room. They hadn't seen me yet. But Madison did. She stopped mid-step. Her face went white. Blair? Victoria turned. For one frozen moment, we just stared at each other. Mother and daughter, separated by 12 years and 20 feet of studio carpet. I saw the mask slip. Just for half a second. Fear and fury flickered across her features before she smoothed them into something resembling composure. What are you doing here? Her voice was ice. I was invited. Diane Russo looked between us, confusion plain on her face. Victoria, who is this? Mom's jaw tightened. No one. Just someone from a long time ago. Actually, I said calmly, I'm her daughter. Her first daughter, the one she forgot to mention. The silence that followed was deafening. The producer appeared before anyone could respond. Ms. Fowler, both of you? She looked harried, clearly not prepared for family drama in her hallway. We're about to go live. Victoria, you're up first. And you, she pointed at me. Come with me. I was led to a small room with monitors showing the live feed. Karen was already there, tablet in hand. You okay? Ask me in an hour. On screen, Victoria settled into her interview chair like she owned it. The host, a cheerful blonde named Janet, leaned forward with practiced interest. We're here with Victoria Fowler, author of the upcoming book, Raising Perfect. Victoria, tell us, what's the secret to raising such wonderful children? Mom's face transformed, soft, warm, the perfect mother. Presence, she said. I'm always there for my kids. Every milestone, every tear, every triumph. I never miss a moment. I felt Karen's hand on my shoulder, steadying. Some critics say your social media paints too perfect a picture, Janet continued. What do you say to that? I share our real life. Mom laughed lightly. The good days and the challenging days. What you see is who we are, warts and all. I actually snorted. Warts and all? She cropped me out of every wart. On screen, they cut to Madison and Tyler sitting beside their parents. Madison's smile looked painted on. Tyler stared at his shoes. And Richard, what role do you play in this perfect family? Dad gave his rehearsed answer. I'm the supporting cast. Victoria's the star. Polite laughter from the audience. Karen's tablet buzzed. She checked the message, then looked at me. You're up in 2 minutes. I picked up my folder. 12 years of silence. It ended now. The lights were brighter than I expected. I walked onto the set as they came back from commercial, every step feeling like I was wading through water. The audience murmured. Victoria's face went rigid. We have a surprise guest joining us, Janet announced, reading from a teleprompter she clearly hadn't seen before. Someone who claims to have a different perspective on this perfect family. Please welcome Blair Fowler. I sat down across from my mother, close enough to see the vein pulsing in her temple. Madison gasped audibly. Tyler's expression flickered, something that might have been relief. Dad looked like he was calculating the nearest exit. Behind the cameras, I spotted Diane Russo sitting up straighter, phone already in hand. Blair? Janet tried to recover her composure. You've reached out to us claiming to be Victoria's daughter, but Victoria has never mentioned you publicly. Can you explain? I kept my voice steady, calm, professional. Victoria is my biological mother. I lived in her home until I was 17 years old. Then I left, because I had no other choice. This is my estranged daughter, Victoria cut in smoothly. She's unfortunately struggled with mental health issues for years. I'm a registered nurse at St. Matthew's Hospital. I didn't raise my voice, didn't need to. I have zero mental health diagnoses. I'd be happy to provide my employment records and medical clearances. Victoria's mouth opened, closed, no rebuttal ready. What I do have, I continued, is documentation of something else. I opened the folder, pulled out the first photograph. This is a Christmas photo from 2008, the original version. I handed it to Janet. 4 people: Victoria, Richard, Madison, Tyler, and me. Second photo. This is the version Victoria posted on her blog, the version 500,000 people have seen. Janet held them up to the camera. Her eyes widened. The audience gasped. 3 people in the second photo. Where I should have been standing, nothing but empty space. Would you like to explain, I asked my mother, why you've spent 12 years erasing me from existence? Victoria recovered faster than I expected. Old photographs get cropped for composition. Her voice was steady, but her hands weren't. That proves nothing. This is clearly a desperate attempt to... I thought you might say that. I pulled out the printed email, handed it to Janet. This is an email from Victoria to her literary agent, dated March 2012. Would you read the highlighted section aloud? Janet hesitated, looked at the producer, got a nod. She cleared her throat. Regarding the family branding, I want to be clear. I have 2 children. Please never mention the name Blair in any materials. She paused, face pale. She is not part of this narrative. Dead silence. 50 people in that studio, not one of them breathed. That email was taken out of context, Victoria started. What context makes "she is not part of this narrative" acceptable? I kept my voice level, almost gentle. What context erases your own daughter? Movement in my peripheral vision. Diane Russo was on her feet, already heading toward the exit with her phone pressed to her ear. There's one more thing. I pulled out the final document. When I was in 8th grade, my teacher filed a report with Child Protective Services. She documented signs of neglect and emotional abuse. Victoria's composure cracked. That's a lie. The report was marked unsubstantiated without investigation. Someone made it disappear. I handed the copy to Janet. But Mrs. Henderson kept her own copy because she knew someday the truth might matter. Victoria turned to the cameras, desperation bleeding through her perfect facade. This is a witch hunt. This is... Mom, stop. Every head turned to Madison. My little sister was crying, mascara running down her cheeks, but her voice was steady. Just stop. The words hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. Victoria's face, the face I'd spent my whole childhood trying to please, crumpled into something I'd never seen before. Not remorse, not guilt, fear. The fear of someone who'd just watched their entire world collapse on live television. They cut to commercial. The moment the cameras stopped rolling, chaos erupted. Victoria stood up so fast her chair nearly toppled. She made it 3 steps toward the exit before Diane Russo blocked her path. The agent's face was granite. Victoria, I just got off the phone with the publisher. Her voice carried across the silent studio. They're pausing the book release pending investigation. Diane, you can't do this. I can, and I am. Diane's eyes were cold. I don't represent liars, especially ones who erase their own children. She walked out without looking back. Victoria stood frozen, watching her career exit through the studio doors. Honey. Dad reached for her arm. Don't. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. Just don't. Through it all, I stayed in my chair, folder in my lap, heart pounding but hands steady. Tyler walked over to me, in front of everyone, the crew, the audience, our broken family. He wrapped his arms around me. "I'm proud of you," he murmured against my hair. I hugged him back, couldn't speak. Madison was still in her seat, tears streaming silently down her face. I walked over, crouched beside her. "I'm sorry you found out this way." She looked at me with eyes that held 12 years of questions. "You're sorry?" A hollow laugh. "I've been living a lie my whole life. I had a sister, and she made me forget you existed. You were 12 when I left. You didn't know." "I want to know now." She grabbed my hand like a lifeline. "Everything. Can we talk? After?" "I'd like that." Janet approached me as the audience filed out, shell-shocked. "That was unprecedented." She shook her head. "Are you okay?" I looked at my brother beside me, my sister holding my hand. For the first time in 12 years, I wasn't invisible. "I'm still standing. That's more than I expected." By midnight, I was trending. The perfect mom spread across social media like wildfire. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, every platform had its own version of what happened. Parenting influencer Victoria Fowler's secret daughter speaks out. The perfect mom's imperfect secret, daughter she erased for 12 years, confronts her live on TV. Who else is lying to us? Internet questions, all mommy bloggers after viral interview. I watched mom's follower count like a stock ticker. Down 5,000, 10,000, 20. Karen's article dropped at 6 a.m. Full story, the photos, the email, Mrs. Henderson's statement. By noon, every major outlet had picked it up. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Colleagues, "OMG Blair, I had no idea." High school classmates, "I always knew something was off with your family." Complete strangers, "Your story gave me the courage to speak up about my own mother." That last one stopped me. I read it 3 times. Megan came over that evening with takeout and a bottle of wine. "How do you feel?" I stared at the ceiling, too exhausted to lie. "I don't know yet. Ask me in a week." My phone buzzed again. Text from Tyler. "I'm proud of you. Mom's locked herself in the bedroom and won't come out. Dad's drinking in the garage." Then another message. Unknown number. "You'll regret this." No signature. But I knew who it was from. I showed Megan. She rolled her eyes. "Threatening texts? Really? After everything that just happened?" I blocked the number without responding. Maybe she was right. Maybe I would regret this. But as I scrolled through message after message from people who'd finally been seen, who'd finally been believed, I couldn't bring myself to care. I'd been invisible for 29 years. Not anymore. Victoria's video dropped 3 days later. She was sitting in her living room, perfectly lit, of course, even in crisis. Tears streamed down her face as she spoke directly into the camera. "My family has gone through something unimaginable," she began, voice trembling. "My eldest daughter Blair and I have had a complicated relationship. I made mistakes. I'm not perfect. No mother is." Megan and I watched it together on my laptop. "But I never stopped loving her," Victoria continued. "I just didn't know how to reach her. Blair has struggled with feelings of rejection since childhood. I tried to protect her by keeping her out of the spotlight. I see now that was wrong." "Unbelievable," Megan muttered. "She's making herself the victim." The comments were mixed. "This sounds like damage control." "She's obviously just protecting her brand." Blair seemed pretty credible, though. "Maybe there's 2 sides to every story," Karen called that afternoon. "Do you want to respond? I can set up an interview." "No." I didn't hesitate. "She's trying to pull me into a back and forth. The evidence speaks for itself." "You're sure?" I said what I needed to say. I'm not playing ping pong with a narcissist. I hung up and stared out my window at the city lights. Part of me, the little girl who still remembered making Mother's Day cards that never got hung on the fridge, wanted Victoria's video to be real, wanted to believe she'd changed, that maybe, finally, she actually regretted something. But her tears weren't for me. They were for her lost followers, her canceled book, her shattered image. I went to bed early that night, cried for an hour in the dark, not for myself, for the mother I never had, and the one I was finally learning to let go. Madison showed up at my apartment 5 days after the interview. No warning, just a knock at the door and my little sister standing there with red-rimmed eyes and a cardboard box. "I found these in the attic," she said, "hidden behind Mom's college stuff. More photos, more evidence. Pictures I'd never seen, birthday parties where I was clearly present, school events where I was standing right next to Madison. All of them cropped in the public versions, all of them proving again and again that I wasn't making any of it up. We sat on my couch for hours, spreading photographs across the cushions like pieces of a terrible puzzle. "Tell me everything," Madison said, "from the beginning." So I did. The cropping, the silence, the dinner tables where I sat invisible, the day I left and no one came looking. Madison cried the entire time. "I thought I had the perfect childhood," she whispered. "Now I don't know what was real." "Your childhood wasn't fake, Madison." I took her hand. "Mom's love for you wasn't fake. It's just, I wasn't included in it." "Why?" Her voice cracked. "Why you and not me?" I'd asked myself that question 1,000 times. I think I reminded her of a time she wanted to forget. Before the blog. Before the perfect mom. I saw her when she was struggling. When she wasn't perfect. I squeezed her hand. She never forgave me for being a witness to her flaws. "That's so messed up." "It is. But you didn't do anything wrong. And I don't want you to carry guilt for being loved." Madison wrapped her arms around me. A real hug. The first one she'd given me since she was 12 years old. "Can we start over?" she asked. "I want to know my sister." "I'd like that too." My father called 2 weeks after the interview. I almost didn't answer. But something in me, maybe the part that still remembered him teaching me to ride a bike, pressed accept. "Can we meet?" His voice was hoarse, exhausted. Just us. I chose a coffee shop across town. Public enough to feel safe, private enough for hard conversations. He looked like he'd aged 10 years. Wrinkled shirt, unshaven face, eyes that wouldn't stay still. "I owe you an apology," he said before I could even sit down. 12 years too late." I waited. "I knew what your mother was doing." The words came out like they'd been trapped for years. "I watched her crop you out of photos. I heard her tell you that you were hard to love, and I did nothing." "Why?" He stared at his coffee, unable to meet my eyes. "Because I was weak. Because confronting Victoria meant confronting myself. Because being married to the perfect mom was easier than being married to a flawed woman I'd have to actually work with." He finally looked up. "I chose easy over right. Every single day, I chose easy." The admission hung between us. "I'm not asking for forgiveness." His voice broke. "I don't deserve it. But I want you to know, it wasn't you. It was never you. You were the best thing in our family, and I threw you away." I studied the man who'd been my father for 17 years, the man who'd watched me suffer and never once intervened. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I said finally. "Maybe someday. Maybe never." He nodded, accepting. "But thank you for finally saying it." He left money on the table and walked out without looking back. I sat there for another hour, alone with my coffee and the weight of everything unsaid. The call came exactly 1 month after the interview. I was making dinner, something I'd actually started enjoying now that I had people to cook for. Madison came over twice a week, Tyler on Sundays. My phone lit up. Victoria Fowler. I stared at it for 3 rings. 4, 5. Then I answered. You destroyed everything I built. No hello, no preamble, just her voice, cold and cracking. No. I turned off the stove. You destroyed it yourself. I just showed people what you'd hidden. I gave you a home, food, and education. You gave me just enough to survive while making me feel like nothing. I kept my voice calm, refused to let her drag me into screaming. That's not parenting, that's barely tolerance. Silence stretched between us. You don't understand. Her voice shifted, smaller now, almost vulnerable. When I look at you, I see every failure I ever had, every time I wasn't good enough. You were proof I wasn't the mother I wanted to be. So you erased me instead of working on yourself. Maybe. A long exhale. Maybe that's exactly what I did. I waited for more. An apology. An explanation. Something. It didn't come. I don't need your apology anymore, I said finally. I don't need you to validate my existence. I know I exist, I know I matter, whether you admit it or not. You sound like you've moved on. I'm getting there. More silence. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up before she could respond. Stood in my kitchen for a long moment, waiting for something. Anger, grief, satisfaction. What I felt instead surprised me. Peace. Not happiness, not closure exactly. Just quiet. The war was over. I'd survived it. 6 months later, I barely recognized my own life. Victoria's blog was gone, deleted, along with years of perfect family content. Her book deal evaporated. The followers who once hung on her every word had moved on to the next scandal. Last I heard, she'd started therapy. Whether she actually believed she needed it or just wanted the optics, I didn't know. Didn't really care anymore. She and Dad were separated, heading for divorce. Madison moved to a city 40 minutes from me. She calls every Sunday, sometimes twice. We're learning to be sisters. Real sisters. Not the cropped-out fantasy version Mom created. I'm starting therapy too, she told me last week. Processing the fake childhood thing. That's healthy. I learned from the best. She paused. My sister, the nurse who survived 18 years of being invisible and came out the other side intact. I didn't feel intact most days, but I was getting there. Tyler graduated college in May. He spent Thanksgiving with me instead of our parents. First time in 12 years I cooked a turkey. Dad sends cards on holidays now. I read them. Haven't responded yet. Maybe someday. Karen won a regional journalism award for her article. She dedicated it to her friend Jenna, who didn't survive her own mother's perfect family performance. Mrs. Henderson became a minor celebrity in our hometown. She advocates now for better CPS follow-up, making sure reports like hers don't disappear into bureaucratic black holes. As for me, I got promoted to senior nurse. My apartment has photos on every wall now. Pictures of me, Madison, Tyler. Pictures where nobody's been cropped out. I started journaling again, writing down the story I'd been too scared to tell. 6 months ago, I didn't exist. Now I have a family that chose me. Turns out that's enough. Some nights, I still take out the folder. Not to torture myself, just to remember. The photos look different now. Less like evidence and more like artifacts from another lifetime. The little girl in those pictures, smiling beside a mother who would eventually erase her, feels like a stranger. But she's also me. She's the reason I'm sitting here today. I keep one photo on my mantle now. Christmas, 2008, the original version. 4 of us standing in front of the tree. My arm around Madison. Both of us laughing at something Dad said. I don't remember what was so funny, but I remember how it felt. Like I belonged. For 12 years, I thought being erased was my fault. That if I'd just been easier, quieter, more lovable, she would have kept me in the frame. Here's what I finally understand. Some people don't edit you out because you're wrong. They edit you out because you're evidence. evidence that they're not who they pretend to be. You can't make someone love you, you can't make someone see you, but you can make sure you see yourself. That's the real victory. Not the viral interview, not watching mom's career collapse, not even getting my siblings back. The victory is this. I know who I am now. I'm a nurse who saves lives, a sister who shows up, a woman who refused to stay invisible. I'm not the cropped girl anymore. I'm the whole picture. And nobody, not my mother, not the followers who believed her, not the voice in my head that still sometimes whispers, too hard to love, can edit that out. I put the folder back in the closet, closed the door. And for the first time in 29 years, I feel something I never thought I'd have. Home. If you're wondering, did I set out to destroy my mother? No. I set out to exist. The destruction was a consequence of her choices, not mine. I simply refused to be invisible anymore. Do I talk to her now? No. Maybe never. And that's okay. Setting boundaries isn't punishment, it's protection. Madison and I are building something real. We text every day, sometimes about heavy stuff, sometimes just memes and dinner plans. Tyler is figuring out who he is without the weight of perfect family expectations. Even Dad is learning slowly that silence is complicity. Some people ask if I regret going public, if I wish I'd handled it differently, quietly. The answer is no. Because I think about all the other Blairs out there, the daughters being cropped out of their own stories, the children told they're too much, too difficult, too hard to love. Maybe one of them saw my interview. Maybe one of them finally realized, it's not me. It was never me. That's worth more than peace and quiet. I go to work. I save lives. I have friends who know the real me. I have a small apartment with photos on every wall, photos with me in them. Was it worth it? Every single moment. Because the alternative was another 12 years of being cropped out of my own life. And I wasn't willing to pay that price anymore. Neither should you. So why did my mother do what she did? I've thought about this a lot, talked to therapists about it, read books about narcissistic parents until my eyes blurred. Here's what I've come to understand. Victoria grew up poor, neglected by her own mother. She swore she'd be different. The perfect mom, the one who never failed. But somewhere along the way, perfect stopped meaning love. It started meaning image. I was born during her struggling years. I witnessed the poverty, the arguments, the times she wasn't perfect. And for someone building a brand around perfection, I was a liability. Psychologists call it narcissistic injury. When someone's self-image depends on being flawless, anyone who threatens that image becomes the enemy. I wasn't her daughter anymore. I was evidence of everything she wanted to forget. As for me, why did I stay silent so long? Trauma bonding. When the person who's supposed to love you withholds that love, you spend your whole life trying to earn it. I kept thinking, if I'm just good enough, quiet enough, small enough, she'll finally see me. I wasn't weak for wanting my mother's love. I was human, but I was wrong to think her inability to love me was my failing. If any of this sounds familiar, if someone in your life makes you feel invisible, like you have to shrink to be accepted, I want you to know something. You are not the problem. Their inability to see you is not your fault, and you are allowed to walk away from people who hurt you, even if they're family. Your existence is not up for edit. That's my story. Thank you for listening to the whole thing. I know it was long. If this resonated with you, please leave a comment. Tell me your story. I read every single one, and if you want more stories like this, subscribe, hit the bell, and check out the video in the description. Take care of yourselves. You matter.